Hello, it's Julie here. I've got some lilies with me today and I'm going to try and see whether I can bring them back to life. I ran a flower club at my local primary school, and we kindly get our flowers donated from a local supermarket, who actually donate them to the local church first of all, and then they get delivered to my house. And quite often the flowers are quite well, how can I put it, a bit dead by the time they get back to me. So I've got some lilies here, which best before date, or sell by date, display until was the 23rd of March, and today it's the 28th of March, and I'm not quite sure how long they've been out of water, but they're looking a bit sorry for themselves. So I thought I would just see whether I can revive these flowers and bring them back to life. And I'm using the lilies because I tend not to use the lilies at flower club at school, because the flowers are too delicate, really. The girls and the boys just don't work with them very well. And also, as you may know, that the pollen from lilies is poisonous for cats, so it's just sort of a general health and safety thing that I just like to use really sort of safe flowers, so prefer to stick with carnations and roses and chrysanthemums and that kind of thing. So every once in a while I do get a bunch of lilies and I try and revive them, and then I can enjoy those at home, so a little bonus really. So what I do first of all is I'm going to move the camera down a bit so you can see what I'm doing. Hopefully that will be in shot. So is to split the packaging away first of all, and just being really careful to do this so that you don't pierce open the flower food. So you need to make sure that you've got enough water in your vase or bucket. I'm going to use this plastic vase over here, and it says that's enough for a litre of water, and I have already got a litre of water there. So snip the top and pour it into the vase, into the container there. If I get rid of all these noisy bits of cellophane, you can see as I hold those flowers up, they're looking really, really bedraggled. There's some fresh buds and there's some flowers that have just gone over. They do look very sorry indeed. So what I'm going to do is to cut off the heads that have gone over and get rid of those, and then take off the leaves on the side for two reasons, because I don't want them to be inside the vase. I just want the clean stems to be in the water, so it'll take up water better, but also they just looked a bit bedraggled. I want to make sure that the water goes up to the flower head and not to keep the leaves alive. And then what I'm going to do here is just gently open up the heads and take off the pollen, the lily, before and in the dry state. So it's quite nice work doing this. Just very carefully pull them off before they get powdery, and then do quite a serious cut. So you can see if I show you that there, the stem there is absolutely dried out. So I'm going to, normally I'd take a couple of centimetres off, but this time I'm going to take, a good, 10-15 centimetres, and I cut those at an angle and then put them straight into the vase, bucket, whatever you've got to hand. So here again, just looking really sorry for itself. So it'll be quite interesting to see whether these stems revive. Now this head, I reckon it'll be all right. And I'm just going to get rid of the pollen there. This is slightly more powdery. We'll have to have a look and see how that survives. So it is a bit of a miracle worker, putting your flowers in water, and it is amazing to see how well they do revive once they've had a good drink. So these will be perfectly acceptable for me to use at home, but obviously if you were gifting these flowers to a friend, I would go out and buy fresh flowers, unless you want to end the friendship pretty quickly. Here again, and again quite a dramatic cut, just to bring a nice clean cut to the stem so they can start taking up water again. And you just repeat. So sometimes you might be getting rid of one or two heads, sometimes you might just end up with one bud at the end. But if that gives you a couple of days pleasure, opening those, watching the flowers open out, I go ahead and do that. So I get rid of all my mess here, come back to the second bunch. Now at this stage, I don't need to put this flower food in the vase because I've already got what I need for a litre of water. So I save that and put that in a drawer ready to use next time. Perhaps if I'm buying flowers from the street market in town, they don't give me flower food, so I'll save that flower food for later. And again, once again, that's a very sorry looking bunch of flowers there. So it's not great at all, but we will try and work some miracles. So start off by cutting off all those heads that have just gone open and gone over. And look, there I am left with just 2 buds. Get rid of all the foliage, all the leaves on the side, because I want that water to shoot straight up to those buds. And again, a massive chunk off the bottom, and to put them in the water. And you just carry on like this, a little production line, keeping it going. This flower head, oh yes, it's open and the pollen is still dry, so I'll take that out before it shatters and stains the lily heads. So if you ever do get the pollen caught on your clothes, or if it does shatter onto one of the heads, if you've got a pipe cleaner, you can sort of dust it over with a pipe cleaner which lifts it off. On your clothes, I quite often put the sellotape around my hand with the sticky side out and sort of pat yourself down, but you don't want to rub it in because it just won't come out. And there we have it, the last one. And so I am really taking off loads and loads of those leaves, cutting them really short and putting them in the vase. So it'll be interesting to see, come back tomorrow and see how those flowers are doing. I don't know whether you've got them just in shot there. I'll adjust the camera a little bit. There we go. So already they're sort of looking much more respectable than they were before. And the beauty of lilies is obviously you can buy them tight in bud with a bit of colour showing, and they'll last for ages. And then what I would normally do is, as the blooms fade, chop those off, and it'll encourage the other buds to open. And then you can get to enjoy them, I reckon, for at least a week or 10 days, something like that. Okay then, well, I'll see you another time. Hello and welcome back. 24 hours later, and I thought you might like to see how those lilies are getting on. If you remember yesterday, they'd been out of water for about 5 days, we thought. And I was showing you how to recondition the flowers. So basically that's what florists and flower arrangers do to keep their flowers alive, and alive for as long as they possibly can be kept alive. So here we have the same bunch of flowers, and you can see it's absolutely amazing. They have well and truly rehydrated, and you can see that all those flower buds that were quite tightly closed yesterday have started to open. And for me, actually, I think they've opened up too much. I don't really like my lilies all blousy and showing off altogether. And you can see at the other end, that cut stem, that it's all nice and fresh and juicy, so that's taking the water up. And you can see also how the pollen started to mature. So again, you can pick this all off individually, but it does leave a really unpleasant stain on your fingers. So what I sometimes do is to take a picture of kitchen towel, and then holding the flowers, sort of grab over the kitchen towel and just gently pull off. So I'm pulling off the pollen, if I can show that to you, but I haven't pulled off the stamen inside the flower. I still like those because they give a nice sort of 3D effect to the flower. So it just depends how tidy you want to be. I find it personally easier just to get down into the flower and pull them all off. Sometimes when these buds are really powdery, that you can get a bit of the pollen onto the lily petals, and it doesn't look very sightly. Of course, I'm trying to do it on purpose. It's not working particularly well. But if that does happen, I just take a piece of pipe cleaner and then brush along the stem of brush along the flower petal, and it just lifts off the bits of pollen so it doesn't spoil the look of your flowers. So here we have them. So I'm rather pleased that I've been able to rescue those flowers. Let's not to put too fine a point in it. We're pretty much dead yesterday. And I'll get a few more days' enjoyment out of these. Obviously, they're not going to last as long in my vase because, I've missed out on the first 3 or 4 days of enjoying them because they were bundled up ready for me to use for the children at Flower Club. So at least I've been able to get something out of them, and they'll look nice at my house for a few days. So we'll just go through and take off the last bits of pollen there as well. So my hands are getting dirtier and dirtier, but I do find it easier going in and using my fingers rather than using the cloth, but it's just up to you about how tidy you want to be. And then I'll go back casually, oh, there's one more down there, casually inside the vase, and then, as I say, I would just keep them like that to enjoy en masse. And as I say, personally, I think it's a bit too blousy at this stage, but you wouldn't really be buying flowers in that state that I had them yesterday. And if you were going to buy your flowers fresh from the florist or the supermarket, you'd be choosing them, again, quite tight in bud. And in fact, I would overlook the ones that had got any kind of show of the flower being more than about a quarter open. Buy them in bud when the nice bit of colour showing, and then you'll get to see them as they develop right over time. And you should get, as I said before, about, you know, a good 10 days, I would say, in your vase, and just keep pulling off the pollen as the flowers mature. And as the buds sort of go over and start to fade and get a bit papery thin, to cut those off, and then you'll keep everything looking fresh and topped up. And remembering also to freshen up the water every couple of days. Take the flowers out of the vase, tip the water away, swirl the vase around, and then fill it up again with clean fresh water. And if you've got any more of the flower food, add the flower food. So that's all for now, and I'll see you again another time.